I have some guests that will be joining us a little bit later. Evergrwoth Mastermind here for July 2021. It's officially summer now. Things are opening up. Double vaccines are happening, and the numbers are going down, which is awesome to hear, especially with uh, you two men on the call right now are both, kind of touching the front line and the work you do. So, uh, good times to, kind of step back a bit and not kind of be in the isolation mode, but now we're getting back to opening up, and this is actually a very good topic for this time because it's something that is not something we think about that often, right? We're in this idea of going back to normal and getting out and doing things and doing all the things we used to do, and I've mentioned probably many times that that's not us as a species, but the topic came to our daily rituals just good marketing. And the nuance of the topic is around basically critically thinking. So the things that we're doing in our daily lives, going out traveling and down to like brushing your teeth, washing your hair, like these things that we're doing all the time and, is part of a societal norm that we just think is, hey, yeah, that's normal. We just keep doing it. Or we were told to do it because our parents told us and all these things. And, you know, there's an element that without paying attention and you know digging into some of these things for yourself, issues can happen. Like a very sad example is, and an ongoing thing is like Flint, Michigan, with their water. People trust the water system because they trust the city or they trust the government, and then bad things happen, and it's still not. And you have to have a certain you know agency yourself and this critical thinking mindset to say, what am I doing every day that I can start to maybe look at and make sure I'm protected, my family's protected, or, you know, the reasons why I'm doing certain things is it just because, hey, it is good marketing and I've been brainwashed and indoctrinated in a modern capitalist society. So the talking points around this is pretty broad topic, but we want to look at more of your experience and kind of have you do some reflection around these points. Is you know, do you know why you do the things you do? So the things you wake up and do every day, they become a ritual. They're things that you do out of habit. Some of it's behavior, but you know, some of them things, can you break them down and like actually justify like, oh yeah, I do this. It's good for me or it's healthy or something. And you know, are there gaps in some of the things that you're doing every day that yeah, you're just doing the motions and you don't really think about some of these things. And then the next point is, do you ever stop and like question the things you're doing? So when you pour a glass of water, when you order some food and it comes through an app and it's doing all these things that you don't really see, are you ever questioning what's happening behind the scenes and why things are happening the way they are? And ultimately, the last point is just, what happens if we stop being critical about things in our lives, right? If we just keep assuming, there's a lot of controversy around the vaccines, right? And it's like some of it has valid arguments because there's science behind it that people are researching, and but is it all bad? No, and we're seeing them having herd immunity. So, but there's still something there that there's a healthy amount of discourse that's good for everyone. And if we stop seeking that, we just keep going along, do we just become the pacified, kind of sheeple that governments and marketers want to just control our every move, right? A good quote that I found related to this talk today is by Bertrand Russell. And the quote is, advocates of capitalism are very apt to appeal to the sacred principle of liberty, which are embodied in the maxim, the fortunate must not be restrained in the exercise of tyranny over the unfortunate. So it's, a way of even looking at your privilege and, the things that you have that others don't, and how sometimes we just make assumptions that, oh, we have clean water, so everyone has a lot of people couldn't sanitize their hands in COVID in certain countries because they don't have basic needs. And we tend to, again, come through with this lens of norm, um, the idea that things are normal, things are going to get back to normal, the status quo, and you know this is a really good time to challenge that and dig a bit deeper and just see how many of these things are not driven by good intentions necessarily. Um, and just to cap it off before we start into the actual I guess here is the corporations that are making money and the science that they push and that it's all driven by money, and it's a hard thing to escape, so much that the government has been reported in Canada giving 23 billion to the oil companies in subsidies in the last 3 years in an industry that we know is starting to kind of phase out issues around the environment. And it's like, well, that's normal. We just accept it and we don't really pay attention. So, you know, it's a bit of a tangent to just daily rituals being good marketing, but in another aspect, everything's politicized in the sense that we keep voting people in that just, kind of do what they want and we don't really pay attention. So just yeah, some wide ideas for us to take a look at, and happy to see some old friends here. So starting off, I'd like to throw it to Mr. Casey. If you can give us the first point to set the stage here on, you know, do you know why you do the things you do in a daily sense? Get up,
Do
do
like
your routines.
so seriously speaking, this is such a subjective, like for me, I try to deal in objectivity, just based on the things, the professions or the things that I do. Um, and such a subjective title, or sorry, such a subjective topic. Um, do you know why you do the things you do? I refer back to the four agreements and say, I guess since, childhood, I have made agreements in my mind that, you know, taking a shower every day and using the soap or the shampoo that I use or the toothpaste that I use or whatever, it makes me feel good. And I do what makes me feel good. Now, have I been trained to believe that it's actually a good thing? Yeah. Um, so do I have habits? I got a ton of habits. Um, so do I know why I do them? No. Generally speaking, I try to do things because usually they have a purpose. Um, and as far as, what's right, what's wrong, well, with a topic like this, who's to say? So, I mean, I get it. I get everybody's studying everything, and cancel culture is ripping apart things from the past, disruptors and so forth. Like guys like my best friend there, Donald Trump. They like to rip apart norms, just to feed their own needs or their own egos, but in doing so, destroy the skeleton, the backbone of what it is that we believe to be reality, or what we believe to be is morally, ethically, or whatever right, um, to do. So frankly speaking, I know when we were discussing this topic before, like what the context would be, I generally realize that I have done a bunch of things based on the fact that I feel good doing them. So I shouldn't eat so much wheat or whatever, gluten and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I switched that out a little bit, and But who's to say that I'm not supposed to eat so much wheat? I don't know, right? Who's to say I'm not supposed to drink cow's milk? But I don't know of other animals that drink other animals' milk. But whatever. The idea is, again, do I know why I do the things that I do? Not really. I just know that I do things that make me feel good. Uh, Leave it there for now. I kind of want to hear what the other folks have to say,
Sure,
if
sure.
that's fair.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is a different kind of topic that we've touched on, and there's subjectivity, but I hope that we'll find some common threads here as we go around the table. So, um, well, pleasure having you here, man, and throwing the open question to you of, do you know why you do the things you do, kind of on a daily basis, and as you go through the motions, and you have a family too, so there's more things that you're doing that
Well,
the rest of us might not be.
well, I mean, just going back to the gentleman said there. I mean, you get up in the morning, and because my kids are see me as an example, you got to comb your hair, you got to brush your teeth, you got to do all these things so that they mimic you and they do the same things as you do. But really, is are all those thinking about? I haven't seen you or Borgance in a long time. I want to look my best, but you know what? I didn't bother shaving today. I didn't even comb my hair this morning. Like it's one of those things, or these are all norms. You want to look good, or you want to do whatever, right? So it's it's interesting. It's an interesting topic. I mean, is there all these things necessary? I mean, you see me more real than most men have in my life, so I'd rather be who I am this morning in front of you than, so, societal norm, you comb your hair, brush your teeth, all those types of things. It's just, I mean, for me, I've got the pressures of my kids because I want them to fit within the norm too, to a certain extent. You don't want your kids to always stand out in some situations. So, you ask your child to wake up at a certain time in the morning, and, because that's what everybody does. That's what everybody should be doing. Eat your breakfast in the morning. But, do we really need to eat breakfast in the morning? You know, yeah, shown that, wait a little bit later in the day to have your first meal and make sure you drink plenty of water. I mean, I filled my jug up this morning. I've got my big jug right here. Been doing this for a few weeks now, and it's you don't know what's good for you. You try it out if it feels right. You take that part of your life, I suppose, right? So for me, it's been the newest thing is the water. I've been drinking a lot of water lately, and is it helping me? I don't know. I go to the washroom a lot. That's about all I know so far, right? So so it's hard to say, bro. I mean, it's you want to fit. I want my kids to fit. I mean, my kids are, my little one. I have a little boy who's 6, and he's a bit of a standout. Yeah, and I know a lot of kids. I've been around a lot of kids. Part of my practice, part of my family, and there's something about him that stands out. The way he's already reading. So but we always wanna. We don't tell a lot of people about what he does. That's special because we don't want him to stand out. So not just yet, at least, let him stand out on his own when he's ready to handle stuff. So it's there's lots of ways of looking at it. I mean, Mr. Trump, he wants to stand out, and that's what he does. He's nuts. But I think all that has a purpose too for him because that's the only way he voice his opinion. I mean, he's tearing stuff down, but I'm not a big believer in the way he does things. I mean, sometimes it's better to being, like, who do you pick? You pick a person like Trudeau, who's, he's just following with the line basically,
Yeah,
or do you follow
yeah,
somebody like Trump, who breaks things down and maybe finds something? I mean, I don't think he did anything great for the U.S. other than point out certain political things, but who knows? Like, it's hard to say. You just follow whatever fits right, what feels right, I suppose. So it's not easy, man, especially being a father. And I'm not sure if any other men on the line are fathers, but it's you got to take care of them too. So like sometimes it's easier just to follow the line and make sure they don't stand out too much sometimes. So
yeah. Well, it's interesting because you bring up the psychological aspect of kind of fitting into the norm, right? And whether that's a good thing, right? I mean,
yeah.
there's this idea of danger of diversity or being too unique or standing out, right?
Hmm.
And I don't know, from my standpoint, I think as a society, it's a dangerous place to move towards and continue because the more homogenized we are, the more everything is the same without any real, uniqueness to it, right? And from the men on this call, like the background culturally of everyone here, right, is
Definitely.
diverse.
Yeah.
And if we just put that all on the same level and took away all that, there's a lot of uh, you know things that we just throw away and give up. So you you know you already see that he's more learned and kind of advancing, and you're hesitant to talk about that. It's a
Yeah.
very interesting thing, that but because you recognize there's danger in not being too normal at the same time as
Absolutely,
you
man.
kind of don't want to be. um and then, as you mentioned, the personal grooming, that especially with the practice, right, you have to show up looking your best for your clients, because that's they expect the doctor to look clean shaven, or at
Yeah.
least tidy beard, or whatever it is. Like,
Absolutely.
there's a certain place that you kind of set yourself, and did you get to pick that, right? And then with you know with your religion, if you chose to do something different, right, would
Yeah.
that be seen as okay or not, or would you start getting flack? And then
Of course.
are
Yeah.
you even getting to? So there's a lot of layers in that, so thank you for digging into
Absolutely, bro.
that. um all right, let's throw it over to Mr. Steve Anderson. Good to see you, man. uh
Hey man, good to be here, man.
Yeah. So yeah, just continuing the thread, man. What are some things that you're doing kind of daily, and are you, knowing why you do them?
Yeah, that's I've been traveling a bit lately, and I noticed that my rituals, routines get disrupted when I travel, and I also have different routines when I travel because I'm not with my family, and I'm more narrow focused on whatever project that I'm working on. So, what I find is without my rituals and routines, my performance goes down, my effectiveness goes. Uh, even the richness of what I'm experiencing isn't isn't as much. Which I just realized. I just came back from a trip. I'm actually still in quarantine right now. Got a couple of days left, and while I was away, it really stood out to me how my diet changes, my eating changes, just spiritual things. Get caught up in the moment, whether it's business or whether it's going out having, a good time, if it's a vacation, just losing that the discipline that keeps me grounded and keeps me on purpose. And what I found this trip, because of the structure, my rituals were really good. We had a nutritionist, my eating was really good, and it just enriched my whole experience. And it just made me realize, what I'm missing out on life when I let go of like my keys that keep me healthy, keep me in gratitude, keep me organized, just knowing what I'm doing for the day instead of, having appointments or whatever just kind of pop up. Um, and it's interesting being back here in quarantine where I'm not out doing things. Um, I've lost some of those rituals. Every day just kind of feels like the next. So, yeah, key rituals, they enrich me. And now I've got to develop the discipline to maintain them regardless of where I am, what I'm doing, home, travel, whatever. Just because I want the benefit of having that structure um, that puts me in the mindset that and the energy and the whole physiology that I that instead of just kind of sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not.
Great, thanks, man. And yeah, I'd say we've all had that disruption because of the pandemic, but even more so trying to travel during a pandemic. Can imagine the disruption, and you know, at least you're able to spot some of those differences to say, oh, because of not having these things, that's something I benefit from. So I need to find out how to reincorporate that in some sense.
Yeah, there's a big difference between having like healthy rituals that keep me grounded and keep me in gratitude and really, being at my best versus, being like a robot and being stuck and having my life disrupted if I don't get to do that thing today. So I think there's a real kind of paradox and balance between, what are the key things that have helped me build the life that I want to build for myself that I just need to do as a discipline. And everything else, is just kind of a bonus, I guess.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank you. Moving on. Mr. Jankowski.
Morning, gents. Good to see everybody.
It's been a long time, my friend.
Been a while. It's been a while.
Happy to have you here.
I missed the beginning, and obviously I can read question number one, but I just want to make sure I'm not missing the reference to capitalism and daily rituals being good marketing. Homer, do you mind just filling me in real quick on what I'm answering?
Yeah. Well, it's an open conversation, and there's definitely some other threads that we have popping up here. But the underlying thing is, are we paying attention, right? Are we a critical thinker? And the things that we're going through on a daily basis, brushing your teeth, washing that we end up doing by the time the day's done, how much of that is like our choice, or how much has been indoctrinated to a point? As Alam said as well, good thing you brought up, didn't touch on, eating breakfast. How many times you've been told, hey, breakfast is a great thing, and now intermittent fasting and all these other things are like, no, that's not good, because you need to let your body reconstruct itself and have a period of digestion and not food in your body. So those are the kind of aspects. Like, so just for this first point for the moment is, do you really know why you're doing some of the daily things that you're doing right now?
Got it. And short answer is no, absolutely not. I think nobody's got an idea of why they're doing what they're doing. Other than trusting in our parents, trusting in society, trusting in history, and going back to brushing teeth. It's overall better for society if you walk into an elevator and everyone's used to brushing their teeth. You know what I mean? It just makes things easier. And like, dude, don't doubt it. Just trust the system and brush your teeth. You know what I mean? So, there's part of that where like there's blind acceptance. You know what I mean? Where, yeah, I don't have to doubt everything. I can see why this makes sense, but I did spend a moment, even a fraction of a second at least, to think about it. It's not just completely autopilot going through life. There's certain things in life that still come up now that I have got no idea why I do them, or why I do them the way that I do them. And, you try to think about it, and I do my best not to spend the whole day thinking, and just trying to be productive as well, right? There is analysis paralysis, and there's also balance of, how much autopilot is really good as opposed to being detrimental. So, I answer the questions in there because I could just start going off. It's been a while, and this has definitely been a lot of fun. But no, I don't always know. Most of the time, I don't know, and then I think I know for a moment, or I think I know for a few years, and then I go back and I'm like, wait, why do I do the things that I do that way? And it's always evolving. I don't think it's possible to always be on, to always be designing purposefully. Whether we like it or not, we're designing our lives every moment of every day. Just we're not always thinking about it, and sometimes autopilot fills in the gaps for us. So, it's not easy to be present and aware 100% of the time. It does take practice, and I'm sure people do get to it at some point in their lives. But a lot of things just kind of came from programming, our neighbors, TV, parents, girlfriend being like, dude, you stink, man. You should wear some more deodorant. It's like, oh shit, duly noted. I'm going to wear some more deodorant going forward. you don't question it all the time. You just do it. You know what I mean? So, well,
Yeah.
I don't question it all the time. I just do it. So, yeah, that's how it exists for me. That's how it shows up for me.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good point, and thanks for your honesty that you're maybe not paying attention or knowing, and that's kind of the thing you touched on, that there's a certain amount of things we have to do subconsciously because the effort to be present to everything nonstop all day is overwhelming, right? If you had to like consciously think about every single action you do from the second you wake up to the second you sleep, we'd be exhausted. We'd do nothing, right? So yeah, we're great points, man. And yeah, we getting into that
Confusing
deeper.
viewing.
All right, Mr. Brogance, I'd like to throw it over to you now. And as a very regimented, efficient man, you could give us some thoughts on, do you know why you do the things you do every day?
First of all, I'm so happy to see all men here. Absolutely, it's similar. I'm following that. I think, growing up, like always traveling, discovering. I'll answer this question differently. Like I remember, like you going from one country to another one, and you saying, "Well, why you do things this certain way? Like it's wrong," because I grew up doing it differently, right? So and why people eat what they eat and why people do what they do. And Pat just mentioned this is like, I think it's all because our families, like, people around us, cultures, countries. And in right now in this country where it's like so many people with different backgrounds, and here I am, and I'm looking at this, and I think we definitely product of our community, and everything is marketing. Everybody's selling, right? And you product of those marketing, like the car you drive, the clothes you wear, the toothpaste you use, and like and all these brands and all these things, they do exist, right? So I think we are product of this. But I think in early age, probably in teens, I started recognizing this is what's happening. I remember I was with my dad in Asia, like when I was still in my early teens. Like, actually, first time we came, it was like I was 8, right? So I was looking at like Chinese kids doing certain things, and I was like, why are they doing this? It's kind of weird. And then like you just kind of you going deeper, and you're like, oh, it actually does make sense why they do it this way. And through my life and teens, like I started discovering that I actually have a choice. Like I can choose what I want to do. And right now, like, do I know what I do? I think product of this, like, marketing, but I still getting way better into at least gauging what is like unconscious and what is conscious. Like what I do, like all my routines, which been built for the past, I don't know how many years. And I love my routines, and you men know me well. I just like, I fucking love my routines. I love my schedules, and I have my timelines, and it drives my woman crazy sometimes. And I'm happy, it makes me happy, but I'm the one designing them, right? So and I think this is the key, is recognizing those things you can change and tweak according to your values, and it takes time to mature and might be grow and realize certain things which you really need to take control. Like certain things I can just let go. Like, I mean, do you care what kind of toothpaste you're using? It's like, I mean, I would, but still, like, I would be open to like different, but like, I would be particular about like certain things, like what I eat, like, and like workouts, right? So I get a chance to pick and choose what I do in this regard. And I think this is what, at the end of the day, you need to recognize. Like, it's just, pick your values and just go with it, and just really stand by what your values are, and build your routines around this. And that's that's my answer to this first initial question.
Great, thank you, man. Mr. Roberto. Are you still with us, sir? Okay, we'll come back to him after. So what I can do to segue us into the next question. Some of the simple stuff, and this is again said, he's like, he doesn't care what toothpaste he's using, but there's differences in not just the toothpaste you might use potentially, uh, but there's
Sorry.
also
Hello.
here,
Yeah.
Good morning.
we'll come back to you just a second.
Sorry.
The idea that toothpaste cleaning our teeth, and Roberto as a dentist here, there's native tribes in the world right now which have clean teeth and good teeth with the way they eat in their natural diet, and even fossils of early Homo sapiens were found where they actually have normal, regular, good teeth. Now, that doesn't mean that in modern day we can achieve that very easily, and it takes a certain diet and a certain way of eating to make those things happen. But the idea of even modern dentistry is in part a reaction to some of the ways our eating habits have changed, the food types, the processed food, and other things that we just go along with. We have to brush our teeth, we have to do things a certain way. There's ways that certain societies still get by without needing to brush their teeth, and they have healthy teeth. So this is one of those small aspects where we just keep going along and think, oh, okay. And then just toothpaste, the number one recommended by dentist. How many times have you seen that from different brands? And this idea that there's a number one, or this is best, or this is the right way, and something new comes along. Oh, now you can whiten your teeth while you brush. Oh, wait a minute, whitening is bad, and now there's all those other after effects. And we
Actually,
just keep being a guinea pig to these kind of marketing
yes.
guys, right?
And because Roberto's a dentist, I need to know, when they say that, this builds back enamel. How do you build back enamel? And this builds up your gums. From what I understand, it doesn't grow back, man. Once it's gone, it's gone. So I kind of need to understand, the way the media machine sells this stuff. So in this sense, I like the fact that Sean is asking, do I know why? No, I have no idea why I do what I do. I do it because it makes me feel good. But what's the truth? So I'd love for a dentist to tell me if my enamel actually grows back, or if my gums actually grow back, or whatever all nonsense that it is that they're trying to sell us. If any of it is written in truth. Hey, Father Damien, how you doing?
Hello.
Good.
Hi,
Yeah, so this is a good segue to you, Mr. Roberto. If you can give
Yeah.
us some insight on that, we'd appreciate it.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. So nice to hear you again. It's been a little while, so I'm happy to be part of the group and be here. So, there's so many interesting questions today. I think I'm going to start with the why is it that I do what I do on a daily basis. Is I've been doing this work for a little while in terms of what it means be your mind, be your body, be your spirit. I always divide it into these three aspects to make it easy to explain. And then from that point of view, from that basis, I can say there's consciousness, or there's conscious and unconscious. I will call them program, just to give them a name. But everything comes through our five senses. Everything that is coming into this mind and this body comes through our senses. And as you guys know, it's only that we have five senses. So through those five senses, we can program an unconscious mind. So the moment we're born, even the moment we are fecundated, when we become an embryo, we're already getting all the data from our mother, whether it's parents through DNA or or through just growing in a beautiful woman and experience the world from in there. So we're acquiring all this information, and we come out to the world and we keep acquiring. And these five senses are programming all this being. Now, what I call a spirit allows me to have a consciousness. And when I have that, or when I'm present, I will call it, I'm still making it more simple. When I'm present, I have choices. I can choose my life. I can choose the way I will be in the world, whether it's through a reaction or through an action, whichever it's going to be. And the second one, not that one is better than the other, the subconscious mind, or is where all this is just happening. There is no filter, and it just happens. So there's no choice. And so the media, we were talking about the media marketing. So all this information coming into us through our conscious mind, or senses, gives us a sense of what things are. And we're talking about toothpaste, and so then yes, I will choose whatever the media is giving me information is in through my conscious, into my subconscious, what it is that I'm going to use, right? So life is happening like this. Somehow we program our mind, not somehow, I'm sorry, through the five senses, we program our mind what we like to eat, what we like to wear, what our parents told us is good or bad. All these things being programming, there is, in this sense, there is no good or bad. It's just part of where we are. Yet the choices, when I'm aware, when I'm present, the choices are mine. I guess that's just to make it short, explanation of how I see this part. And going back to Homer's question about the toothpaste, there is no toothpaste that I know is gonna grow enamel or gums. So I guess it's part of marketing media, just letting us know what we want to hear.
Yeah.
Right? What we want to hear. Yes, we can remineralize, which is different. Remineralize meaning some toothpaste may have some minerals in it that are then they need to avoid sensitivity. But besides that, there's nothing else that I know or I'm aware of. And then going back to what was commenting before in terms of toothbrushing, I think we in the aspect of who we were as human beings 12,000 years ago, just to say, or whatever number you want to use, but back in the day, we most likely didn't use toothbrush until we became civilizations, or even later on, but because of our diet, right? We were eating more fibers. We were eating less, obviously, no refined, nothing.
Yes.
Nothing that is refined, no bread, no nothing. It was just in us to enjoy. Therefore, I believe the bacteria and the microbes, whichever virus and bacteria, we need them. We were thriving with them better. And today it became our enemies because we are not balanced. Therefore, our planet is not balanced.
Yeah.
All right. So from that point of view, we have to go back to become conscious so we can make choices to improve what we got. I believe in God, so I will use this, what the Creator God gave us on this planet, right? To protect, to create, not to create, to protect what we got. So we go back to balance. I don't know how that could be, but definitely there is more awareness. And I just wish that the people that are more aware will not just go into awareness in terms of creating another tribe or group, which means separation. But at the end of the day, is how aware am I to make the choices from my conscious mind to create the world that I want, or to do what I want to do, not what I'm being told to do, or programmed to do, whether it's society, parents, or the media or whatever it is, not taking away the value they have, just to become aware, what is it that I'm going to choose that is going to work in my life for the improvement of myself and my and the people around me.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Thank you, man. And yeah, as you mentioned, historical eating, it is the differences, and that's why we have this situation we do now and require your services. But even do some history of like marketing and how marketing has evolved in the past couple hundred years. The idea of toothpaste and some of the chemicals used in modern toothpaste was put in there because people weren't attracted to doing brushing their teeth, and it was around World War I where somebody found the right chemical that made it kind of that fresh feeling as you use the toothpaste. And some of these things are just not required for what the intent still is. And shampoos, similar things. Irritants start to come in all these scents and all these crazy things that get compounded and marketed as, like Casey, you said, hey, this is going to regrow my enamel and my gums. That's, as Roberto said, not true, not factual, but it gets marketed. Microbeads in facial scrubs, right, became the rage because it was a tool to give people something different, microabrasion, and the beauty industry launched that destroys the environment. Oops. And they have to now try and backpedal and take all this away. And just, these subtle things that we just kind of get brought along the way.
Sorry,
And
can I add something to this?
certainly,
I forgot to mention. It is that all these chemicals, all the chemical industry, I'm grateful for. And at the same time that I see that it is not the chemical that is going to solve the situation, right? Or is going to improve myself. It's going to help me. Yet it's not going to not going to be a long-term benefit for my being. What I'm talking about is, say, antibiotics are really important for us. Otherwise, we would be dead, right? Very fast if it's an acute infection. At the same time, if it's misused, then it goes against us because we do need our biodome. We need our bacteria in our mouth, in our skin, in our eyes, everywhere. So when we are separated from the planet, one thing that really strikes me is like, I'm an immigrant, but not as you will know, I'm from Bolivia. I'm Spanish from Bolivia, and I came here to Canada, and then over the years I keep hearing the same thing. Oh, Canada's so big. We're only 30 million people, and well, now it's more than that, but back then was 30. We need more people. We need more people. So at that time was, oh, that's great. I mean, I'm part of this. But I realized that, yes, do we really need more people? Or are we taking away the land of what balance Canada? Right? Like, it might be a harsh word, but taking the land that animals and the biodome needs to balance us here in Toronto.
Yeah.
Right? We don't have any more bees. They're gone. Like, I have my garden and I'm always checking, but 20 years ago when I was in my garden, I saw them. I'm so happy. I was not using cell phone until, I don't know, 2016 or 2017. I didn't want to have a cell phone. And now I realize that, I go back in the garden, there's nothing. There's zero. So we are adding chemicals to our earth, to our ground, to our plants. Bio is beautiful, yet we're not getting the message. We're not doing what we're supposed to do here. We're just patching. Yeah, let's get some fluoride. Yeah, it's great. Let's get some minerals. Yeah, it's beautiful. Let's put it in the, why not? Yes, because we're lacking what we lost.
Yes.
Right? So what I think is more valuable in everything, in marketing and whatever, is become who you are, conscious choices, and take it from there. It doesn't mean that we're a perfect human being. There's no bad in me. Absolutely not. We always do what the machine, the subconscious will do. which is great. Without it, we wouldn't be alive. We wouldn't be here. Yet it is to distinguish. And it takes 1 second one breath to forget that that's who I am. Thank you.
Thank you. That the small line you dropped there, we're lacking what we lost. I think that's huge. That's a really good bow tie on that. Thank you, man. Throw it over to Father Damien. Thank you for joining. And
I came in late, so what was the?
yeah, so if you can get the gist of what we're going around there, we're looking at daily rituals and how these are things that whether you're thinking about them or not. So as you go through your day, are you kind of conscious or aware of why you're doing the things day to day?
Well, I am. A lot of the things are like habitually forming, right? So the daily rituals like I just came in when you guys were talking about toothpaste. So so you can imagine what I'm thinking you're because brushing your teeth. It's like, but I really do. There's a quote that Saint Augustine says is protect order and order protects you. That we are creatures of habit, and then by putting a daily ritual in, we kind of mold our days so that we know that we can do something, and then we actually follow through with it or strive to follow through with it into habit. And it's really forming us to be able to do things not just without thinking, but we know what we're doing, but it frees us to do other things and to think about other things rather than I have to brush down 10 times and then I have to brush in the back out 10 times, so we just get into the habit of doing the monotonous things so we don't have to think about it. But I do think about the things in my day. I do think about things I do that are ritual, because many of it starts from like waking up, doing prayers, which is all mental activities. So I do have to think of it. I might not be the best person to talk about this because I do live in a different category. But is it just good marketing? It can be. I mean, daily rituals can be market it and then market with whatever they want. But it can be used as a tool for us to grow as human beings and to develop virtue. And that's exactly a definition of virtue is habits, right? Good habits. And habits are rituals that are done over and over and over again until it becomes second nature. How often do I question the purpose of the daily rituals? Well, I do as much as often, at least once a week, why I do the things I do, why I pray the things I pray. And then what happens sorry, am I jumping ahead?
No, fine. Segue into that. That's where we're heading, man. So.
Where did you end off?
You can just take it with this point. How often do you question these things?
Oh yeah, so I at least question once a week as to. So I examine my daily life daily, but then once a week I actually look at it and say, why did I do what I did? Like, why did I choose to do these sets of prayers or do it at this time and stuff like that? But but the other things like waking up and taking a shower, I don't question. Or brushing my teeth. I don't question those things. That to me is just hygiene. So I guess in a sense, that's what it's supposed to be. That's what daily rituals end up becoming like second nature.
All right. Yeah, and you touched on the idea of like taking some time weekly to reflect, which I think is very valuable. So throw it back over to you, KC, and point number 2. How often do you question these things?
Well, pretty much like Father Damien, yeah, I do question some of the things that I do here. Uh, uh, but I usually, in order to find that answer, I find subject matter experts, shall we say. So in my workout regimen, I had certain things that I was doing, and then you research a bit on YouTube and on wherever, and you try to find out what the best things are. But the real subject matter expert is my trainer, to make sure that I'm eating the right things and then I'm performing the right exercises or stretches or whatever it is. I mean, I used to work out, and after I finish my workout, I'm feeling sore, I'm feeling tight, whatever. Next day, and then 2 days later, it's like, holy cow, like ridiculous pain, and then like good pain, but pain. And then the third day, I feel great. Meanwhile, I'm doing the workout that my trainer has me on now. I can work out every single day now, and not feel the same amount of pain. I can actually work out daily, different parts of the body, and get better results. So why was I working out the way that I was working out before? Don't know. You know, it's kind of like when I went for a massage for the first time. Lady looked at me and she says, "Oh, look at that! You're a cosmetic guy." Because when I worked out, what I work out on my chest, my arms, my whatever, and it just looked good. Meanwhile, my back was garbage, and I can't actually carry a load like weight and stuff like that. I train with this guy that I'm with now. Your body is strong. Your body can carry a load. It's the whole reason why you're doing physical training, not just to look good, but to actually uh, be fit, be in shape, be strong. Like you can actually lift your own body up. That's pretty much basic human things. You can run, you can lift your own weight, you can push your own weight and stuff like that. So, anyways, that being said, do I question these things? Yeah, I question. Well, clearly, I just question Roberto on, can my enamel grow back? I question that all the time. Like, why should I do this, and why? What is the purpose of whatever it is that people try to sell me? Which is the idea why I opened up by saying I try to live an objective life rather than subjective. And the best way for me to be objective is to go to the experts and see what they are experiencing, what their research has shown. It's pretty much what I do. Um, but before I go further in it, I mean, Sean, you came up with this subject, so clearly this is something that has gone through your mind and stuff like that. So I want to ask you, do you actually know why you do what you do? Or is it because, happy wife, happy life? I'm just kidding.
No, thanks, man. Yeah, I'm definitely a questioning person, and I maybe wasn't as much in the daily rituals and like getting a glass of water, toothpaste, washing my hair and stuff. But over time, the simple things that I do every day, I do change and learn. And, so I have like a water system with a softener, dechlorinator, RO system, reverse osmosis. And then, there's some things about, is RO bad for you, and some things like that. So I'm like, okay, well, I've been doing this way and I think things are working well, but let's try and find some science behind it, different articles, and actually research on that. I was looking it up in the past couple of weeks. So the and that's because I don't take for granted what could be coming from the city. Remember I mentioned Flint, Michigan, that, even a good city, at some point things could go wrong, and then now you're drinking things that you shouldn't, right? And because I'm in a fortunate enough place to afford a water system, to us, it wasn't that expensive, and it's a good long-term investment for our safety and our health. And something else more recently, and kind of what sparked this, is listening to some audiobooks on marketing, learning about some of the chemicals and stuff they put in things that are kind of just there to market and make it feel good, and kind of play into your vanity a bit, right? And the shampoo is another example. I've been using it most of my life, and I just saw an ad on TikTok from Bill Nye, the science guy, talking about Head and Shoulders, how great it is, and how this chemical helps. And I used to use it for long ass time, and I'd always have an itchy scalp, even with the damn thing. I still have dandruff, and I'd be like, well, you know. And then with the long hairs, I had that. I've had lots of different issues with maintaining long hair, and we got to a point last year where I started this thing called no poo, no shampoo, and we got off shampoo for the past year. And as Roberta mentioned, trying to get into balance with the bacteria is in a natural way our hair is supposed to work again instead of fighting against it. And basically, what we're doing right now is something more traditional to Chinese farmers of using fermented rice water as in a bar farm from a provider that we trust that basically lets the oils do the work, and our hair is not like a mess or greasy. Like, this summertime, my hair would be frizzy, it'd be oily, and it'd be just health advantage, right? That doesn't happen now after a year plus of going away from shampoo and trying alternative methods that are just more natural for our physiology. So yeah, I definitely, am more and more question of these things. Now, the other things, why we do things like the 9 to 5, the get in a relationship, have kids, and all that kind of like life script. That's something I've always kind of been against, or at least questioning that we just get brought up and thinking these are the norms, and that messed me up for a long time, right? Because I was a late bloomer. I didn't have my first relationship until I was 27, and I had a lot of anxiety and a lot of issues because this life script of like, oh, I have to be this. Oh, I'm not meeting up to that. I'm too shy. I'm not coming out of my shell. Until I met Conley and started, expressing myself more and kind of opening up a bit. But that was 21 when I started kind of being, more social, man. I delayed and deferred that whole high school experience, and I just stayed home, played video games. Right? So yeah, I've seen a negative effect of that, kind of life script that's marketed to us, and it definitely had effects. Now, yeah, where I'm at, and the more things I question, life, daily life, humanity as a whole, I'm much more mindful, and I think it's important for us all to kind of take that. So hopefully that somewhere in there gives you some tidbits on that for you, Casey.
So it sounds to me like you question stuff like daily.
I try to as much as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So can I get some of this rice water for, I know I don't have that much hair, but
Yeah.
okay.
I'll
So
send you the link.
pass it back to you, brother.
All right, thanks. But we'll go back to another guest here. Alam, if you can give us some ideas on, how often you question these things, or are you actively questioning these things?
Being that I work at a hospital, or a couple of hospitals now, a lot of my family approached me about the vaccine in the early stages of how they're developing this, are mRNA vaccines safe, and things of that nature. And this is a pretty extreme sort of because a lot of, like, when I work in the hospital, and I'm very approachable in my family. People, call me up. Should we be doing this? Should we not be doing this? Should we hold out a little bit? And I felt pressure on my end as well, because I work at Women's College Hospital. I see a lot of really severe cases, people and if they got any sicker, and if I expose them to something without protection, they'd be in big dire straits. So I questioned the vaccine in the beginning. I questioned the numbers to this day about these dramatically lower numbers and higher numbers and things of that nature. I think a lot of it is politically motivated, to be quite honest with you. I do think that the vaccine's safe. Don't think of me as a anti-vax, right? I do believe in the vaccine. I believe in the technology. But I do think you have to kind of play it by question some of the stuff that we're getting from the media and from the government, because I don't think things could drop as dramatically as they have. I'm thankful they have, because I want the world to open up. I think it's been incredibly detrimental as a society, this vaccine, and how we've shut down. I see people who are isolated in their homes, and
I either I see people who are just going with the flow, or I see people who are questioning it. And I think you're better off questioning whenever something like this happens, whether it be toothpaste or shampoo or the vaccine. I think you have to. I think as one of the older second generation people in my family, I question things even in my own religion. You know, I'm a Muslim, and there's certain things I question in my own religion, and I think you have to. I think you always have that. I think Father Damien would probably agree. You have a discussion with God, even, you know, in your head and in your prayers. You know, questioning why this is happening. I mean, one of the reasons I've met some of the men on this call was because I lost my father and I went through a lot of issues, and I questioned, why did you take my dad away from me with God? And you get to a certain reality. So going back to the vaccine, I question it. Yeah, I think it's good for you, but I do question the numbers. And so for my own children, I'm getting a bit emotional for some reason on this topic,
It's
because
okay, man.
it's you have to question. If you don't question, you can't live through this society blindly. I just met a indigenous man on Tuesday, and when we were alone, I said to him, "How do you feel about what's going on in with I had no idea. I was born and raised in Canada. I love my country. I am a true Canadian. You know, people ask me where you're from. I'm from Canada. My parents are from Pakistan or wherever. I believe I'm Canadian. But hearing that happened in the past, whoever's at fault, you know what? I'm not sure who's at fault, but it shouldn't have happened. It should have been in the history books that this happened, and it wasn't. You know, things have to be questioned. You know, I trusted the history teachers who taught me this is what happened. You know, but honestly, now you question it. What the stuff that we're learning in high school or university, is it how much of it's true? So I think it's an obligation upon all of us as leaders or as future leaders or just being part of society. You have to question. You know, there are things that you go by. You know, you got to take a shower in the morning. It's hygienic. You know, but you're right. You know, you're not supposed to use shampoo every day, and your hair looks fantastic, my friend. So,
Thank you.
you know, it's just one of those things you have to question sometimes. And certainly you don't question, but the important stuff you got to question. If you have kids that you're dependent on, you have parents are dependent on you, you'll have a wife that questions you. You know, like you have to question these things. So, I think you're not a what's you're a detriment to society if you don't question. I think, you know, we should question our doctors, we should question our governments. You know, am I actively questioning the government? No, but I do question my doctors and experts about the vaccine. You know, I'm not a politician, so I'm not sure what's right and wrong. But when it comes to medicine, you know, I know certain things where I have a bit of a background where I can have an understanding. So I think it's not it. You have to question. It's just the way it is. And if
Yeah,
you don't, then you're gonna lose out in the society.
yeah. And you know, you touched on history, and I'm Canadian born, 100%, right? It's all I've ever known. I've
Yeah.
never even left the country beyond the trip to the States and stuff. So the the veil coming up and learning about the past, it's something. History is written by the victors, and every piece of
So
history
true.
we know
So
today
true.
that we think is accurate, you know, there's often some subtext and some things that eventually come to light later on that we start learning more and more. It's like, oh, that's because this society or this civilization took over, and then they tried to erase, right? Erase, or it's a big thing. So yes, I'm on the society level and the government, especially. You know, even if the best political party were to come in that you view as the best, whatever your alignment is, you still have to question your own party, because they're going to slip up. They're going to have other interests. And the earlier example I touched on again was the 23 billion gone to the oil industry and taxpayer dollars. Did you ever agree to giving 23 billion of our money of tax to help oil companies in the past 3 years? When the indigenous you speak about were asking for a small, modest sum after what they went through, is it really that hard to divert it, a little bit, and then clean water, housing? Uh, I had the year of someone uh, related through the family who's in the PC party, and had a candid conversation about what would you change, and I mentioned Indigenous people, and this was, I think, about 2 years ago. And his response was like, "I don't know how we can afford that, man. It's hard to make that a reality." I'm like, that's what you're being, indoctrinated with, right? But anyways, I'll never stop if I go down that route. So uh, let's move along. Go back to Mr. Anderson. If give some insight on, are you questioning, and based on your first bit there, it sounds like you are recognizing these things, but outside of the travel where it's kind of more obvious, have you been paying attention, kind of reflecting on these things on a regular basis?
Yeah, this is a great question, man. What I realize is the time that I probably question the most is when something's happening. There's a health issue or there's a life change. I think it's unconscious is probably when it happens the most. I've been fortunate that, being in elite sport, I get questioned all the time and I have to report, and I have bodies that question me all the time. And one of the things that came out of this is having to question what worked. So it seems like a natural thing to question and try to find things that don't work. But like you were just talking about before, even things that work may not work in the future. And if we don't question what works, we just keep doing it and start to take it for granted. And then it becomes obsolete, and then we become obsolete. And you see this a lot with businesses like Blockbuster, for example. You just keep doing what you're doing and you're succeeding. And then a small change changes everything. And you end up, obsolete, man. It's crazy. So yeah, I'm being mindful, and I'm blessed to, like Father Damien, his role and his position, he has disciplines and procedures set in place that help him in this area, and that's what happens, I think, when you're in leadership, hopefully, and that's what I've been blessed with is things I probably wouldn't have I wouldn't have come to these conclusions on my own. I wouldn't have questioned things that work. What do you question things that work for? They work. Leave them alone. But I've had to start to value that. The thing that sticks out to me the most is the thing that about the rituals and the disciplines is the paradox of it. I'm a Mazi by nature, so I'm present in the moment, and then I'm flying over here and I'm flying over there. It's I'm not super organized by nature, and I've lots of energy. I don't need sleep and food. I'm just all over the place by nature, and I have to calm myself down and be more mindful. So it would be my nature to not really pay attention to something unless there was an issue, and to not really question anything that was working. That would be my nature. But being mindful, I think this is where rituals, the paradox of ritual really comes in for me, and it's helped me a lot. Is how do I keep my freedom and that the nature of discovery and creativity and imagination, and have structure and routine and processes that help me be mindful and help me stay grounded. And it's a paradox, and I'm just really being challenged with it now, in a major way. We sold our house, traveling for work, we got COVID, all sorts of life changes. You got to be really mindful right now, but not keep recreating my past. So how do I be creative and courageous and thoughtful and mindful all at the same time? And it's challenging, but yeah, I think the rituals, I think it's doing it all. It's not like they compete with each other, and I think that's part of the human condition is we also often look at things in opposites. You know, either you're religious or you're scientific. Well, how come you're not both?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so that's where I am right now, and so I'm questioning everything, and I'm building habits and rituals and gratitude. Daily gratitude is questioning. You know, it's making me present to what I'm grateful for, and it's also having me take a really good look at myself. It's not just something I say. It's like, am I grateful or not? If I'm not grateful, what's going on with me? What am I drawing into my life? So, yeah, it's a great question. And the shorter answer is not enough consciously. Am I questioning? And I think it has a lot to do with the paradox of me thinking that putting all these systems in place take my freedom away in some way. But I'm realizing that when I make commitments and I'm clear, like I have a clear commitment, then I'm free to act on that commitment and within the frame that I've set up. I can be totally free. When I don't have commitments and I have all these options, I'm just all over the place, which doesn't feel free.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel free. So, yeah, I am questioning, and I'm questioning now more mindfully. But historically, I have not questioned enough, except for when things are going wrong.
It's fair, man. That's, arguably our natural way of being, right, as a creature. And it's this conscious effort to push beyond that and get to a point where you have a healthy, you know, use of your critical mind. Yeah, thank you. Throw it over to Mr. Jankowski. Back to you, man, and try and tie these two questions together. So keep going with the time available, and you know, are you questioning the daily things? And you already admitted that you don't know why you're doing the things. So if you don't know why you're doing them, are you questioning them? And if you're not questioning them, what's the danger of not seeking that or not be willing to reflect on that stuff?
Got it. So to make one thing a little bit clearer, it's not necessarily that I'm not questioning them. It's that I'm satisfied with not knowing the answer. You get what I mean? So, and I'm sure outside looking in,
Complacency.
I might think that, hey, I've thought of it all. And somebody's like, dude, you still tie your shoes in the morning. Why don't you buy shoes without shoelaces? And I'm like, you know what? I haven't thought of it. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure there's places where I haven't looked. But some things give me happiness to just not worry about. There's a specific mental capacity I've discovered that I have. And the moment I'm reaching that capacity, I get exhausted. I get tired. I start to worry a lot. I don't sleep very well. And, one of my professors in finance was like, he was a huge advocate of investing on the stock market internationally. That was his thing. You got to invest on international stock markets. And the one message he kept coming across is there's guys who are going to eat well, as in they make money through their investments. There's guys who are going to eat well, and there's guys who are going to sleep well, but it's never both at the same time. So you choose what you want to handle in life. You choose how much awareness you want to have. I don't know if you guys ever had the opportunity to speak to homeless people, but if I went to school downtown Toronto in Ryerson, and there's homeless people on campus, so I'd sit down, have some lunch. He'd come up and I'd have a chat with him for an hour, and these are super aware people, super woke, that are very heavily resisting the system and status quo. Like you want to hear about the latest conspiracy, man? Go to Young and Dundas. I'm not even joking. You're going to find out about all kinds of stuff, and not everything holds merit, but they're questioning tremendously. They doubt absolutely everything, and it's amazing. But sometimes good comes from it as well, from questioning, and sometimes good comes from ignorance, right? Like I remember when I was a kid, I always had a BlackBerry. Always had a BlackBerry. Absolutely love BlackBerries. And then the iPhone came out. I'm like, okay, that's cool. It's got a big, pretty screen. It's got, all this motion kind of stuff. But some of the basic functionality was missing for me. And I don't know if you guys know, but iPhone 3GS was the first iPhone that came out in Canada, which is the fourth iPhone to have ever existed. The first three only came out in the States. And I remember my buddy got the iPhone 3GS. I got the BlackBerry Curve 8900, and like he can't copy and paste. I'm like, you just spent $600 on a phone that cannot copy and paste. What are we talking about here, right? And I'm going in this loop, like, what is the, my whole reality is crumbling in itself. I'm like, what am I missing? How are people genuinely spending the same amount of money as on a BlackBerry, even maybe more, but you cannot copy and paste? I'm like, I copy messages to my friends all the time. So then Apple addressed it and invented this thing called a screenshot, which, I was like, why would we need screenshots on smartphones? Now, 2021, I really appreciate screenshots, but I also have the ability to copy and paste now. You know what I mean? So screenshotting phones was a creation out of something that I completely didn't understand and was in a total whirlwind trying to make sense of it. And there's not that I want to trust big corporate or whatever it is. It's not about that, but sometimes things just work themselves out. Maybe somebody one day in the Apple headquarters in California noticed, you know what, guys, shit, we forgot to add the copy and paste function. You know what I mean? And they just did. They figured it out and they added it in by iPhone 4, and it was there and problem solved. And little Pat Jankowski was sitting in high school worrying about how all these people aren't going to be able to copy and paste anymore. And it was just like, whoa, I just needed to calm the frig down. You know what I mean? So it's a give and take, right? And now it shows up for me of what do I want to worry about? You know what I mean? Because there's so many things out there and so many problems. My sister worries about wasting water to the point where if I make a cocktail or whatever and there's ice cubes in it, those ice cubes better be going to a plant or something, because God forbid I pour those ice cubes into my sink. And I'm like, oh my God, to live in that world of worrying about it all the time, and recently there's a fire in the neighborhood I live in. I live next to an industrial part of Etobicoke, and a bakery caught on fire. It was almost an entire block. It was huge. It was like 4 or 5 stories tall. It was a massive blaze. Every firefighter in Toronto and Mississauga came out to help, and they sucked up so much water that the condo I live in didn't have water anymore. For that entire 24-hour period, I opened up the tap, there was no water. So brilliant me, and this happened like 2 weeks ago. Brilliant me, I go to my sister and I say, her name's Paulina. I say, Paulina, listen, I think I found a way for you to not have to worry about water anymore. She said, what do you mean? I said, look, if you just went to every bakery in Toronto, every commercial bakery in Toronto, and just made sure that their smoke detector batteries were good, the amount of water that was consumed in that 24-hour period was greater than all the water you're going to save for the rest of your life. I found a way to free her mind. And I'm like, just spend a summer going to every bakery, say, hey, I'm doing a student project, got to make sure all your batteries are good, and that's it. And now you can freely throw away ice cubes for the rest of your life because you have a net positive effect on the globe.
That's a good way to question.
You're missing the point. I'm like, I thought the point was to consume less water for the planet. I thought you're trying to do good for the planet, but then I realized it wasn't about the planet. When you ask her, it's about the planet, but she's got space to worry about something that she needs to fill it with something. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about you worrying about water. Do your thing. You want to take my ice cubes and maybe my plant is going to grow funny because it's got some martini left over it. Whatever. I don't care. You know what I'm saying, right? So there's a certain need to worry about things. I'm learning, just like me with copy and paste and Blackberries and iPhones, like there was clearly space for me to worry about that kind of stuff, which my parents did a good job making sure that I could worry about whether Apple has copy and paste rather than worried about if there's food on the table, right?
Right.
So there is room for it. And, I have to be selective with what I'm worrying about, because if I'm not selective with what I'm worried about, things will naturally fill in the more self-sufficient I become in life. And God forbid the day comes that I never have to work a day in my life ever again, and all I do is sit there and worry all day, I'm going to die early. That's probably the worst thing that can happen to me. You get what I'm saying, right? So
yeah,
I get it.
I do
Gotta fill your life, man.
make a conscious effort to not be on autopilot, but I make a conscious effort to not give a flying F also, right? And that's me trying. That's my balance that I'm working on.
Yeah, yeah. I really appreciate that sentiment and view you gave your sister, because that's a problem I have with so many activists that choose to die on an anthill, right? And it's like, really? That's the thing you're really not seeing the whole picture, and touching back into Roberto's thing, the balance, like with the ecosystem, right? So if her goal was to save water, like you just said, make sure every fire, or a smoke alarm is working in every bakery, and you've now saved more water than you ever could. But she doesn't want to, because that's not it. And like you said, the worrying, the space for worrying, that's an interesting thing. I like that.
You know, there's
And
a line that came out as a result of this pandemic. It's the first time I've ever heard the line, and I don't know if it was born out of the pandemic or whatever, but, kind of like Pat talking about the bakery and so forth, but, that's a first world problem.
That's
That was the
real.
line that was given to me. That's a first world problem. I'm like, I had, so call me selfish, call me whatever you want. And I love the fact that we're talking about dentistry so damn much. But I went and I got Invisalign for my teeth. So because of the pandemic, they shut down dental offices and I couldn't go. And I was in need of getting my new trays for my teeth. And I'm like, for crying out loud, it's been 3 months. I'm still running around with the same trays in my mouth. I gotta get new trays, or else my teeth. My buddy in Australia says, dude, man, that's a first world problem. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm cutting up my freaking face here, and you're telling me about a first world problem? Well, you're worried about how straight your teeth are, man. Seriously, like people are dying because of COVID, and you're worried about your teeth being crooked. Like, are you serious? I had to step back and I had to think about it. For me, it's a problem. Globally speaking, I guess I was being a little selfish. That's a joke, by the way. Sean, you can continue.
no, valid point. Yeah. So let's move on to Mr. Brigance. So you're returned. If you can give us your kind of point 2 and 3 here. How often are you questioning the things you're doing, and what happens if you stop?
I'm not sure his connection is stable. I think he's trying to be a part of everything, but I think we should move on.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, Roberto, we'll head over back to you. So then, and
Yes,
the same
guys.
questions to you. Are you
Yeah,
questioning these things, and what happens if you stop questioning them?
yeah. I used to question a lot, and created a lot of belief systems around them, the marketing, what to buy, what not to buy, what I need, what I don't need. Let's fill the garage. Then I question less, and now I don't care. I don't question much anymore because I mean, belief systems. It's just all belief systems at the end. What is that you want to take and make part of your life that it's valuable for you? What is it that you can fulfill yourself with? So when I say I don't question much anymore, or the least I can, is because I took myself away from media. Like I don't watch news, television, nothing. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. It's just part of where I am at the moment in my life. Perhaps it is. But that led to me to do what I want to do, what I like to do. So I could be working, sleeping only 4 hours a day or 5 hours a day, intermittent fasting or not, doing fitness, doing these things, right? That I want to keep, because my belief system is balance. And then I forget about balance many times and go off. So media has a big impact, or had a big impact back in the day in my life. Today has less, yet I cannot avoid it because media is everywhere. I go in my phone now, and there's something about Harry Rosen or something about toothpaste or something about whatever. So they are.
Yeah, your Bluetooth didn't connect well in your car. Okay.
I think we lost him, man.
No, not lost. His Bluetooth didn't connect properly when he jumped in his car.
Yeah, I had just meet him. So when you come back, Roberto, we can get that resolved in here at the end, brother. But in the meantime, Father Damien, let's go over to you, sir. You know, how often are you questioning these things? You mentioned a daily ritual, but
Yeah.
you know, what happens if you stop questioning these things?
Well, I've found like for so in formation for the priesthood, there's like it's not just spiritual or academic or physical, but there's also human formation, and so we're always questioning to grow, right? So unless we reflect back, how do we need to know how to change to become better? So like you know, I'm not going to get into politics or into anything else, but you know, in light of the news that's coming out, we need to be able to reflect as a country and see, okay, how do we move from this? How do we grow? And you know, to give an example that I normally give is, I think Cornell knows, when I first came to this parish, and I was put into this parish, the pastor before he died was here for like 10 years, did the same thing over and over again, used the same companies over and over again, the same
Oh, yeah.
over again. And then eventually you have to come in and you have to do an audit and kind of check and ask these questions. Is it the best for the people? Because if I'm the steward of their money, is it the best for their people? I can do the same thing over and over again, use the same companies, but if it's not giving the best for the money for the people of God here at St. Monica's, then I would change it. If the programs that are being run are not the best, then I will change it. I will do other things. And as Casey knows, Cornell knows, like I'm even learning how to DJ so that I can go onto Twitch to do a gospel house on Sundays to try to do you know, other things. And I did motorcycle vlogs and all these things while the first lockdown, you know, ask Father D, and people would ask me questions, and then I would answer them and pre-record them and video them, and while I'm riding my motorcycle, and then answer them. You know, if you're not asking these questions, then you're not growing, right? And you know, that same statement is, there's a statement that everyone I think knows, that if you're standing still, you're actually moving backwards, and so we should still be moving forward. And you know, that's how I operate. I don't know if you guys watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but I like Brooklyn Nine-Nine because, you know, I work with the police. I'm one of the chaplain inspectors for York Regional Police. So I like watching comedies and stuff like that with police. But there's two characters there that end up getting married: Jake Peralta and then Amy Santiago. And Amy Santiago is the type of personality where she has to have everything organized, know everything, binders and all these things, and it works for her. It works for her. And then you have Jake, who just goes by whatever and does whatever he wants, and it works for him as a detective also. Say like, for me, I need the structure and I need the order, and it's helped me so far. So for others, I know other priests that are complete opposite of me, and they seem to still be running their parishes. So I don't knock anyone's system. I just know for me, and that's a constant asking of myself, what am I doing? So if I didn't ask what works, then I would never have known that this works for me. So yeah. So if I stop asking those questions, then I feel I would stop growing.
Right, man. Thank you. Let's go back through, I guess, and kind of tie off this last point. So, Alam, going back to you, man. You know, given again, kind of the position you're in, and with the medical tie-in that you have some authority with your family to help guide them. It sounds like you're willing to keep asking the questions, but what happens if you stop?
Well, I mean, I really identified what Jankowski said. And what I mean by that is you can't worry about everything because you do go nuts. Because my wife is type who worried about, everything. And that's how she functions. I pick certain things and I'll focus on them because those are the things that I know I have a background in and I can figure out and I can question with some authority. Whereas my wife will kind of pick everything, type of thing. And that's how she works. She has to have everything in mind. She has to have control of everything. I can't do that. So I have to be a little bit more picky in what I'll question. Certain things you have to kind of accept as is. That's how norms are. But certain things, like I said, I will question. And I can pick and choose because those are things I can handle, I can research, and I can understand with some background, having some background. So, and then there's certain things like we have. I'm just going to talk about a little bit about religion in my situation. Again, like I said, I'm Muslim, and there's certain things that are kind of prominent these days. For example, sex ed in school, and I had a conversation with a good friend of mine about sexual education. I've got an 11-year-old daughter, and they've started teaching them about that kind of stuff. Your period, about a penis, about a vagina, things of that nature. And my friend, whose daughter is 1 year younger, is very uncomfortable with some teacher teaching his daughter that. I said, you know what? If you're not going to do it, they have to do it. The world is huge right now. You access the internet, everything is right there. And the next question to him was, he said, "You have my daughter faced a question. Do you know what a 69 is?" She's 10 years old, and her 10-year-old buddy asked her that, because he knew what that was. She had no idea what that was. So who's better to tell my kid about the world than myself, who has her best interest in it, right? So it's you have to question. You have to question what you want to teach your child and guide them. They're gonna figure stuff out. So, but you have to be there as much as possible, and that's kind of my thing. I can do what I can do. Certainly I'll leave up to the authority, certain religious things. I won't, I'll go to the imam and say, how do I handle this? I had some issues with him, I had some problems in my own marriage, where I had to pick between my mom and my wife. Why do I do that? I went to the imam. I can't pick between my mom and my wife. I know whom I'm living with, but I also know who gave birth to me. So I don't know. So those type of topics, you go to somebody who knows how to handle it, so,
being in the medical profession, shouldn't you always, and I'm going to use the line, stay curious? So
absolutely.
Constantly questioning things. It's like,
you
never seen that before. What is that thing growing out of the side of your face? Kind of thing.
Absolutely. I treat diabetic wounds. Diabetic wounds are, they can be infectious. Sometimes they don't heal. And if what I'm doing isn't getting better, patients are going to question, what the hell are you doing? I've been coming for 6 months. It's not helping. You have to have an answer.
Yeah.
And if you don't have an answer, they're not going to come to you anymore. And where I work, that's all I do is Women's College Hospital. So all I do is diabetic wounds. And there are patients who kind of go by whatever I'm saying, and they're happy to come back every week. And there's people who've been coming there for 6-7 years, and that's just part of their daily routine. And they don't have a choice. That's just the way diabetes is. But there'll be a crop of people who will say, you know what, why isn't this getting better? And I'll tell them. I have to be able to give them an answer. And if I don't have an answer, there has to be somebody behind who's going to help me out with this situation. So you have to. There's no way you can't question.
Okay.
It's part of what I love to do. Is just it's a puzzle. For me, it's a puzzle. You know, it's a combination of antibiotics, offloading, footwear, and debridement, or whatever it might be. So you have to question. That's part of what I do, for sure.
Cool.
Awesome. And you know, the thing touching on, you know, your children, and I know Casey, you were pretty adamant about instilling curiosity and some of this critical thinking mindset. And I wish Pierre was on here because he's done a very good job as well with the changing landscape of the internet and what kids are going through. Like, even when I grew up with the internet, you know, 14.4 modems, like DOS, right? Compared to what kids are exposed to in the bullying and all these things. So instilling that, I think, is the most important job of modern parents. That it's more, not that it's never been necessary, but like that need to be critical and, you know, find real information and read between the lines, get to real truths and not just take everything kind of at face value. There's a lot of danger when young kids are not learning that lesson. And I think that's what's causing a lot of grief around kids, which end up hurting themselves or worse because they're not being taught that. They're not given that trust from their parents to let them realize they're smart enough with some guidance to know how to navigate that better, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, again, like we, you know, us, you know, 40s, 50s, that we're exposed to a certain amount of marketing in a way that is you know, just unfathomable to what it is now, right? The second you're born, Roberto mentioned about the baby getting data, right? You're getting data the second you're born. Well, the amount of things you're getting hit with now as a child compared to when we were kids is just overwhelming. And it's more pervasive. And, you know, you're on playing a little app for kids on an iPad, and then they have an ad about some other toy or something else or something you don't want them to see pops up. And there's just so many things that they have access to. Whereas, you know, going back up 100 years, your kids are only exposed to what you expose them to. You actually had some control over what they ended up learning and how they developed. You have less control now. So if you're not putting these kind of ideals into questioning, you know, being mindful and you know, being able to be smart about these things, it's a very dangerous world for, you know, the sheeples. Yeah. So let's get things wrapped up here. We're pretty much at time. Just do a quick check, Roberto, if you're back. Get some final words from you.
Is he able to unmute, or you unmute him?
Yeah, hi. Sorry.
There he
I
is.
don't know what's going on here. Anyway, this is funny.
Yeah, if you could just give us some final thoughts on the talk today, kind of what you take away from it.
Yeah, it was a lot of take on. People giving you so many insights, how their life goes to reflect into what am I doing, and many of the people contributed to my life. I'm very grateful, especially to see some of my belief systems that I need to observe them to, you know, to change them if possible, and to be aware of what media does to us, and be more aware of what is it that I'm buying that is having an impact in this planet. Yeah.
Thank you. Father Dayton, throw back to you for a final thought, sir.
Well, my final thoughts is, I guess basically everyone has daily rituals that we put on, but we have to kind of watch how I guess like capitalism or marketers use things. Because why do I reach for Colgate instead of another brand? Why do I know I have to brush my teeth. Going back to brushing of teeth. But why do I use certain brands over other brands? And yeah, so I constantly have to be aware of that. Not that I don't have a distrust of media. I already kind of do. I question everything that's there, anyways. Do more research. Only because I know firsthand how they have one view and they can put that view. But I guess for me, final thought is if we're willing to grow, because I guess this is the mastermind. We're trying to grow. At some point, we have to reflect on ourselves and then see what needs to be changed or what's working well. And if honestly, if everything's working well, and it's still, you can honestly say it's working, it's good. This type of mentality and this thing that I'm doing is working well for myself, for my family, for my community, then you don't have to change it. But we do have to ask the question every now and then, and then continue to change if it needs to be changed. If it doesn't need to be changed, that's good.
Yeah. Thank you. Jankowski, final thoughts, man.
To be honest, I don't think there's much left in there. that fire story was pretty much the cherry on top. I'm complete, man.
All right. Thank you for that. Alam.
All I can say is it's been a really great conversation to be part of. Certainly got my juices flowing today, so I appreciate that. I really appreciate Jankowski's humor, and of course, that was really funny. But I don't know. I think, yeah. I mean, I just got a headline on my phone. Vaccine makers are saying that we have to take these boosters now, and the government saying, no, it's not necessary if you're double vaccinated. So, like I said, I question that. You have to question these headlines that are popping up all the time. I think it's our duty to do it. So, and at the same time, I love you, Jankowski. I love what you said today. You can't take everything. You can't worry about everything because that will drive you nuts. At least it will drive me nuts. So, but you do have to question certain headlines. And again, thank you.
Good to see you, man. It's been a while.
It has been a while, brother.
Yeah. On that note, it's about being able to understand your capacity and your limit, right? Like if you're overextending yourself and you're, Atlas trying to hold up the world, you're going to break at some point because you're doing it alone. And it's, trying to find that balance of, a healthy amount of questioning or coming back to it or giving yourself space just so that, you don't end up down the road and you go, oops, I'm now suffering because I didn't just ask some simple questions earlier on. Right? It's really what it comes down to. And it's really that scientific mind, right? Everything we live by, even scientific theory, is a theory, right? Everything we know for certain today, you have to be happily proven wrong with the right knowledge, right? And like the indigenous stuff along you mentioned, right? You're fully Canadian, I'm fully Canadian. Didn't know about these things for the longest time, right? Now that we do, how do we be better? And like Father Damien touched on about growth, right? It's like, once new information comes in, how do we change that? We keep making the same mistakes or keep choosing not to improve. Life's not going to get better for us or anyone around us. So, Mr. Anderson, final thoughts on this, sir?
Yeah, it's a great conversation. Thank you, man, for this conversation here. I was just thinking that, questions, they feed, creativity and human growth. And like I think Dr. Father Damien was saying, about the growth, we gotta grow. And I think people confuse growth with change. Like decay and dying is change. it's not growing. So growth has to add to you. It has to keep you moving forward, being alive, and coming back to the rituals and questioning what we do. It's a paradox. It's like the systems, the grounding, the continuity, all that stuff that comes from rituals and routines. But again, just doing something because someone else told you blindly, or it's some custom, never to be questioned. There's no way to grow. And it's, I look at Atari, I look at Blockbuster, Enron, I look at all these organizations who didn't question anything, and someone like Apple who's constantly putting themselves out of business before their opposition can compete with their products. They've already made it obsolete through this whole process of what can be better, what can be better. They don't always get it right, but they're not. They don't seem to be dying. They're constantly improving and growing. So I'm just trying to take that on board myself. And Jankowski, man, the room for worry. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I got to do something with that, because if I'm worrying about things, if I got room to worry about something, then what am I missing out on? How am I giving myself that room? Fill it with something productive, not with just worrying over, like Casey, like you said, first world problems. Yeah. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, man. All right, Casey, you're the last mic drop today, brother.
Oh, I'm not mic dropping, man. Like, you need Dr. Bomb for that. So a couple of takeaways. Yeah, of course, comfort zone is a great place to be, but nothing ever grows there is, my favorite line to keep me moving. But curiosity is what keeps me learning and trying to understand and trying to question what's going on around me. However, your thing about the daily rituals and when we first started discussing, are we thinking critically about the things that we have going on around us, or the practices that we generally do every day? Yeah, I was very excited to hear how this is going to go. And yeah, Jankowski's story pretty much does kind of put it out there for you, whereby you're making space to question some things. I agree with him in the sense that, yeah, you kind of want to make it a little bit on the objective side of things. Like, really and truly, an ice cube isn't going to save the world. So, let's put it into perspective. Yeah, I think making space is probably the mic drop of the day, as far as I'm concerned, and focusing what your questions are or what you're concerned about. However, in that vein, the whole reason why you came up with this, and the whole reason that I've been asking for the longest time, how do I regrow my enamel or my gums, makes me question a lot of what it is that I have been raised to believe versus what needs to happen. I mean, we were all raised on oil, to be honest with you. And now we're moving into the world of electric vehicles, which everybody said could never be done. And now it's being done. So I like to live in the world of Star Trek, shall we say? You know what I mean? To go where no one's gone before, kind of thing. The whole reason for Star Trek is to, challenge the norms and improve. And is something that has been on my mind for, all these years, questioning the norms and trying to do better. So I thank you, Sean, for bringing up this topic. And if I don't find the answers, like I said before, I'll go to the experts. This panel today has a lot of experts in it. I am missing these kind of conversations. Where have all these guys been, man? Homer, I flip it back to you.
Yeah, there's one last drop I'll slip in here around the ice cube thing again. The one aspect, Jankowski, that it's but the effectiveness, right? That that one ice cube doesn't solve everything. But as a big avid reader of Dune, where we are all water fat and basically abuse water, versus somebody who lives in the Sahara or something, in that respect, we disrespect that ice cube because of our way of thinking. If we truly appreciated everything throughout the day that was given to us and had a use for it and not to waste, we have a very wasteful mindset in the Western world that, even with your resolution and don't worry about it, that ice cube doesn't matter, still choosing to waste the ice cube when it could benefit something is a dangerous mindset that, that'll be my little mic drop to let that simmer and percolate in your minds.
Now you sound like my sister, Homer. My goodness.
No,
But at the same time, I think we all agree with what you're saying, Homer, but you are moving into a new subject.
Yeah, paradox, man. They're both true.
Yeah.
They're both true.
Yeah. But so that's the tie of this. And coming up next month, following this kind of train of thought, we have a talk on how nutritious or safe is the food we consume. So definitely going to get Pierre, drag his ass out here for that one, because it's a lot of insight on that. And, whatever diet you end up on and what foods you choose to eat, just what is the caliber, quality, and how is the food industry leading us astray. So that's going to be on, it doesn't give me the date. Oh, sorry. Saturday, August 14th. Every second Saturday of the month for the rest of the year. We hope to have you back, and privileged and blessed to have you all out. So thank you for joining, and be well.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Great seeing you all.
Thank you, man.
Take care. Bye.
Everybody.